So glad to be with everybody from very windy Washington, D.C. And give you a little bit of an update. It's kind of, there's been a lot of things to follow, and we want to make sure that everybody, all of our partners, all of our state partners, all of our allied partners, and everyone that cares about care has a real understanding about where things are. As Shantae said, all hope is not lost, but also there's a lot of confusion because for about a year, we've been talking about something called Build Back Better. And that was because that was the way that President Biden and the Congress packaged a lot of the priority issues that they wanted to see move in Congress. And the good news is that those priorities, a lot of them are still in play. Unfortunately, not all of them, but a lot of them. The bad news is it's going to have a different name. So what you're going to hear and what you should really be focusing on are those pieces that we're advocating for to be part of what's now kind of being called the economic recovery package. That's the word, it's being called, but you don't need to really remember that. Just don't worry if you hear things like Build Back Better isn't happening. That doesn't mean that the huge transformational investments that we've been talking about, that Adi just mentioned in his remarks before me about the investments in home and community-based services to address both access to those life-giving services as well as to address the direct care crisis, are still very much at play. So what we're talking about is $150 billion, which is over 10 years to really address both of those issues. And those issues need really more than that money because of the decades of lack of investment. So we've seen the American Rescue Plan Act funding. It passed about a year and 20 days ago, to be exact. And that American Rescue Plan Act funding provided almost $13 billion to the states. And I really call that money that was meant to plug a hole in a sinking ship. That funding was for 1 year of services after going through a year of the pandemic. And so now we need to push for this $150 billion to do the big transformational things that we need to see happen, to pull some of the over 850,000 people that are on waiting lists for these services into the service system, but to also build the infrastructure that's needed. We couldn't put additional people into the system right now that already doesn't have enough staff. So we also want to be making sure that we're making these direct care jobs good jobs with family sustaining wages, because it's the right thing to do. And just like our director, Ai-jen Poo, wrote in an op-ed yesterday in the New York Times, we can't just ask for more home care workers. We have to make those home care jobs good paying jobs, because ultimately that benefits the worker and it benefits the individual receiving services and family caregivers like myself, who then don't have to worry about where those services are coming from. So what you can do is what Adi just said at the end of his remarks, which are reach out to your legislators and just ask for that $150 billion investment. Share your story, make the ask, and remind your legislator that you'll be holding them accountable to see that $150 billion and the other care priorities come through in the economic recovery package. Always happy to answer questions as things move along, but that's my update from Washington, D.C. Please keep the fight going. We do expect this, I should mention, that we do expect this to all hopefully wrap up by late May, maybe into the summer, at the very latest by the recess at the end of July. So I know we've been making a lot of the same asks for a while now, and that can be really tiring and frustrating. I get it, it's tiring for all of us too, but we have to keep the fight going. We're in the last few months of the push, and then we'll get there and have this transformative funding to get down to the state level to have you all implement.